Level 1, Survival Mode, $0 to $2,000 per month. At this level, money isn't a resource, it's a problem you're managing in real time. Every decision has a financial component attached to it. Someone invites you to a birthday dinner, and your first thought isn't excitement. It's, what's the restaurant? What's the price range? Can I order just an appetizer without it being obvious? You're constantly running social calculations to hide a financial reality. And the exhausting part isn't any single calculation. It's that the calculations never stop. They're running in the background of every conversation, every invitation, every time someone casually suggests doing something that costs money. The psychological weight here isn't just stress, it's cognitive bandwidth. You're slower, more reactive, not because you're less intelligent, but because part of your brain is always allocated to the money problem. There's also shame at this level, a quiet, corrosive shame that tells you this is your fault, that everyone else has figured something out that you haven't. Social media makes this worse. You're surrounded by curated versions of other people's financial comfort, and the gap between what you see and what you live feels like personal failure. And that feeling shapes every decision you make. The bright spot? People at this level often have the deepest community bonds. When you have nothing to give materially, you give time, loyalty, presence. That's real. That matters. But make no mistake, the goal is to leave this level because no amount of perspective makes financial suffocation healthy. Level 2, getting by. $2,000 to $4,500 per month. This is the most invisible level of wealth because it looks fine from the outside. You pay your bills, you go out occasionally, you have a Netflix account and a gym membership you barely use. To anyone observing, you're doing okay, but you know the truth. You're one bad month away from level 1. A car repair, a medical bill, a slow week at work. The buffer between you and crisis is thin enough that you can almost see through it. And that awareness, that knowledge that everything is fine until it isn't, creates a low-grade vigilance that never fully switches off. People at this level often describe a feeling of being on the treadmill. You're working, you're moving, but the scenery isn't changing. You're not drowning, but you're also not getting anywhere. The saving behavior here is interesting. You know you should save. You might even have a savings account. But every time you build up a few $100s, something happens. The universe seems to notice you have a buffer and immediately sends you a bill. Over time, some people in this bracket stop saving at all. Not from irresponsibility, but from a learned helplessness. Why bother if it always disappears? That pattern, once it sets in, is genuinely hard to break, not because of discipline, but because the emotional math stops working in savings' favor. Breaking out of this level almost never comes from cutting lattes. It comes from a meaningful income increase, a new skill, a better job, a side income that sticks. The math at this level is less about discipline and more about expansion. One thing that does help at this stage, before the income increases, is just getting clear on the actual numbers. Not a complicated budget, just knowing exactly what's coming in, what's going out, and where the money is disappearing to every month. Most people at this level have never seen it laid out clearly, and seeing it changes something. I made a simple tracker for exactly that. It's in the description if you want it. 5 tabs, everything auto-calculates. Takes 10 minutes to fill in and gives you the full picture in one place. Level 3, Stability, $4,500 to $8,000 per month. Something shifts here, and the shift isn't what most people expect. It's not happiness, it's quiet. The refrigerator hum in the back of your skull, the constant low-grade money anxiety. It starts to fade. You can go a full weekend without checking your bank account. You can say yes to things without a mental audit. That sounds small. It is enormous. People who've never experienced chronic financial stress tend to underestimate how much mental and emotional space it occupies, and how different the world looks once it's gone. Psychologically, this is where the research says the biggest gains in life satisfaction happen. Not at the top, here. Because the pain of financial stress is so acute that simply removing it feels like a transformation. You sleep better, you argue less, you're more patient with people you love. The version of you that exists without the constant background hum of financial anxiety is genuinely a different person to be around. But this level has a trap: lifestyle inflation. Your income goes up, and quietly, slowly, so does your spending. The apartment gets bigger, the car gets newer, eating out becomes the default. None of these things are wrong on their own. But without intention, they can keep you feeling like level 2 even while earning level 3 income. The treadmill changes speeds, but it's still a treadmill. The people who actually build wealth tend to freeze their lifestyle at this level, at least temporarily, and point the surplus somewhere intentional. That decision, made or missed, determines nearly everything that comes next. Level 4, Comfort, $8,000 to $20,000 per month. This is where people expect to feel wealthy and are surprised to find out they don't. Objectively, life is good. You have choices, real choices, not just which ramen flavor, but do I take this trip or that trip? You can absorb a $2,000 surprise without restructuring your entire month. That's profound. even if it stops feeling that way quickly. But a new psychological phenomenon appears, social comparison, in both directions. You look up and see people with vastly more and feel inadequate. You look down and feel a complicated guilt about your own comfort. Neither direction feels good. This is the level where rich feels like something that always belongs to someone slightly above you. The goalposts, which you were certain would stop moving once you got here, are still moving. There's also a paradox of options here. More money means more choices, and more choices create their own anxiety. You spend more time wondering if you're choosing correctly than you spent worrying about money at level 2. It's a stranger problem than financial stress, but it's still a problem. Level 5. Wealth. $20,000 to $100,000 per month. Let's be honest, few people watching this are here, but more people than you think will get here eventually, and understanding this level is useful regardless. The most consistent thing people describe at this level isn't happiness, it's time. Suddenly, time starts to feel like the actual currency. You stop trading hours for money, or at least you don't have to. You can pay for things that give you time back. House cleaning, personal assistance, first class because the extra hour of sleep on the flight is worth it. The entire relationship with time restructures. And for people who have spent their whole lives feeling time poor, this shift is disorienting in the best and strangest possible way. But here's what nobody tells you. Time abundance has its own disorientation. When you can do almost anything, when the constraint isn't money or time, you have to confront desire itself. What do you want? Not what do you need? Not what can you afford? What do you actually want right now for its own sake? Most people discover they don't know. They've spent so many years optimizing around constraints that when the constraints lift, there's a strange emptiness. Not depression, something quieter, a directionlessness that catches people off guard. At this level, the wealthy often describe a social isolation that's hard to talk about. People treat you differently. Friendships get complicated. You're never entirely sure if people are showing up for you or for what you represent. You start to notice who asked about your new car before asking how you were doing. You notice who brings up money, yours specifically, in conversations where it has no business appearing. Real, unconditional trust and becomes the rarest and most valuable thing money can't buy. Level 6. Generational wealth. $100,000 plus per month, $10 million plus net worth. This level almost defies the normal rules of the conversation because money at this scale stops being personal and starts being structural. You don't think about money the way the rest of the levels do. You think about allocation, not can I afford this, but what does this capital do while it sits here? Money becomes a tool with its own set of complex decisions, and many of those decisions carry weight beyond one person's life. The emotional reality here is something researchers call hyperopia, an overfocus on the future, on legacy, on what things mean, at the expense of present experience. People at this level often describe a difficulty being present. They're thinking in decades, in generations. What will my children inherit? Not just financially, but psychologically. Will they be equipped for a life with no financial constraints or destroyed by it? That's a profound cognitive shift, and it doesn't come with a manual. So wherever you are right now, whatever level, whatever number, whatever complicated feelings are sitting in your chest about money, the goal isn't to get to a number where you finally feel okay. The goal is to understand the game you're actually playing so you can make moves that are real and deliberate and yours.